What's up everybody, it's Taylor with Boydston Grove, and today we're going to make a ton of new fall decor using only scrap wood. Let's get into it.
Let's get the party started.
Let's get the party started.
Lately, I've been scrolling through Etsy and Pinterest, checking out all the new fall decor that's out there for this year. So I picked a list of my favorites, and I'm going to show you how to build them. Alright, this is how it's going to go down. I'm going to make all these projects using scrap wood and a minimal number of tools. That means no laser, no router, no scroll saw. Now for time's sake, I am going to be using the miter saw and the jigsaw, but most of these projects are so simple you can make them with just a few hand tools. The only purchases I've made is a couple cans of spray paint and some rope. The rest of it is going to be everything that I have on hand. The first project is going to be some candy corns, and I'm using some leftovers from a Home Depot trash haul that I got a while back. I set my miter saw to 15 degrees and made 2 cuts, leaving about an inch at the peak. I made sure to really round over all the corners and edges when sanding. I used some craft paints to paint the candy corn, making sure to get the yellow, orange, and white ratios correct, because the last thing that I want is to end up with some stupid looking candy corns, right?
You got that right.
Then I used some rope to add some bows. And there you go, I made some with bows and some without so we can mix and match. Project number 2 is going to be some pumpkins. I'm making mine from 4 pieces of 2x4s and a 2-inch piece of a 2x2. This stack of 4 2x4s is 6 inches high, so you want to make sure that the longest board that you're cutting is at least 6 inches long. I found these pumpkins are best looking if that longest board is just a little bit longer, like around 8 inches, and then your 2 short ones around 6 inches. I pre-sanded the pieces, but I still left them somewhat rough. I glued the pieces up, and for the sake of time, added a few brad nails so I could keep the project moving. After taping off the stem, I spray painted the pumpkin. Then I used a sander to knock down the edges and give it more of a country farmhouse look. I stained the stem with some mission oak colored stain, and then I used some rope to add a bow. As you can see, I made a couple different colors and sizes. Project number 3 is going to be another pumpkin. For this one, you're going to need 4 pieces of 2x4 cut to 6 inches long. Setting my miter saw to 45 degrees, I cut 2 corners off of 2 of the 2x4s and 4 corners off the other 2 2x4s. I didn't really measure, I just kind of eyeballed it to what I thought looked right. I also cut a piece of 2x2, which is actually a split piece of a 2x4, to 8 inches long. After sanding the pieces, I assembled them with glue and brad nails. I taped off the stem and gave it a coat of paint. Just as the other pumpkins before, I sanded down the edges, stained the stem, and added a bow. And pumpkin number 2 is already done. Project number 4 is going to be some wall decor. I cut a couple pieces of an old 6-inch fence picket to 15 inches long. I also cut a few strips of wood about 10 inches long. After sanding all the pieces smooth, I assembled them using glue and brad nails and left about 1/8 of an inch gap between the two boards. I used a bucket to trace 3 overlapping circles and added a stem to make a pumpkin shape. Using some craft paint, I filled in the pumpkin. Then I used some paint pens to add some lettering and a few details. To finish it off, I attached some of the rope to the back for a hanger. Wow, that was a quick one. Project number 5 is going to be some yard art. I cut a bunch of pieces of pallet wood to 15 inches long, and then, using 2 pieces for back braces, I assembled them using glue and brad nails. I used the same technique as the sign to create a pumpkin and cut it out with the jigsaw. I lightly sanded it to knock down the corners and then added a strip of pallet wood to the back for a stake, making sure to put a 45 on the end so it will sink into the ground a little easier. You can always leave the stakes off if you prefer to keep these pumpkins inside. Project number 6 is going to be some tabletop decor. Does a log that's been in my yard forever count as scrap wood? I painstakingly cut out a bunch of cookies in varying thicknesses. Alright, word to the wise here, it can be really tempting to take a project like this and try to move it over to the miter saw, but that can be extremely dangerous. Because all the surfaces of a log are completely uneven and can't sit flat and safe on a miter saw, so it can easily turn, roll, get bound up in the blade and cause serious kickback, and you can get injured really badly. There are jigs that you can build to make it safe to cut a log on a miter saw, and maybe that's a project we should tackle in the future, seeing as how cutting out these cookies by hand can be really tedious. I like the look of the bark on the edges, but the bark on this log was really soft, so I used a sander to knock it off. I painted half of them orange and half of them white just to have a little variety. I drilled out a spot to insert a little piece of dowel in each slice, using a 1/4 inch dowel on the thicker pieces and 3/16 inch dowel on the thinner ones. You can do all kinds of things with these mini pumpkins. Some of them I just added a few details to, some I turned into little jack-o'-lanterns, and some I added bows to. The thicker pumpkins can be left freestanding, but I decided to take some of the thinner ones and attach them to a piece of wood. And I took another little scrap piece of wood and made a little sign that really tied the whole thing together. Alright y'all, there is a mountain of fall decor finished. As you can see, I made multiple sizes and colors of almost every single one of them, so let me know in the comments below which one's your favorite. This was a great way to use up a bunch of scrap wood, and like I said before, the only things I purchased were a couple cans of spray paint and some rope. The rest of it I had on hand. I hope this gives you some good ideas of how to use up some of your own scraps and some good ideas for some new fall decor around your own home. Thank you very much for watching, be safe, and have a great day.